So our parents can just allow their children to be more creative, explain things to them in their own way, not in how we see it, but in how our students, our children see things to us.
Right.
We do not water down the curriculum. We challenge every student at their own level and pace, and we allow them to be creative, to think differently, and demonstrate what they have learned.
Welcome, Linwood Unified School District families. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Beyond the Classroom podcast. I am your host, Sarah Barnes, and I'm so glad you are joining us today. In this episode, we will be diving into a very powerful topic that is reshaping classrooms and learning environments across our nation. Universal Design for Learning, also known as UDL. We will be exploring how this approach supports and helps educators reach all student learners by removing barriers to learning and bringing flexibility to the learning experience from the start. Joining us today is Dr. Hector Marquez, who is the Director of the Department of Special Education. And he will be unpacking for us today what UDL looks like in action and why UDL matters more than ever. So let's go ahead and jump in. Thank you, Dr. Marquez, for joining us today. I'm so grateful you're here.
Thank you for inviting us. And by us, I mean I represented the whole special ed department. So on behalf of the special ed department, thank you.
No, thank you. So if you can you, and not just introduce yourself, but give us a little bit about your background, your experiences, your professional roles throughout Linwood Unified School District.
I am the current proud Director of Special Education. I've been serving in this position for 7 years. However, I've been an educator for the last 28 years now.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Yes. So I started as an instructional assistant, and then I became a teacher. I started in elementary school. Then I became a teacher at the high school, and then I became a teacher in special assignment, assistant principal, and now the Director of Special Education.
Wow, so you come out with a lot of experience.
Yes.
Yes.
And in all grade levels. So like I said, I started in elementary, and then I did high school, and then I did middle school as an administrator. So I have seen it all.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So can you kind of share with us a little bit about how you got into learning and when your first love of learning began?
So I come from a big family. I'm number 8 of 10.
Wow.
So yes.
Big family.
And so I remember seeing my siblings going to school, and I wanted to go to school. And so at the time, I was too young, but when I started going to school, I wanted to learn, but I had some impediments. So I had a speech impediment, and I also had dyslexia. So learning for me was a little bit harder. And I was born in the 1970s. So needless to say, the laws for inclusion and support were not there yet.
Right.
And so, but I remember my teachers. They make sure that I was able to show them what I have learned. It was that they saw me. They had a passion on teaching that even me, and again, you know, in the 70s, they included me in classroom activities, projects, and that's when my passion for learning and teaching was cemented.
So what you saw was almost like transferred into you as a passion.
Yes, absolutely. I knew that I realized the power of a teacher. Good planning, including all the students, means so much to the student as well as the class as a whole.
Okay, so you felt seen, heard, valued, all of it, kind of what UDL is supporting today.
Exactly.
But back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s.
That's amazing.
And so that was my my beginning of as a student, but then as a teacher. When I became a teacher, I went back to looking at the teachers that helped me, that saw me and the things that they did to include me, that I made a point to see all of my students.
So how did you, kind of moving a little bit forward now, and Linwood Unified School District first discovered UDL, and when did the vision of bringing it to Linwood Unified begin to unfold?
When I was a teacher, when I worked in elementary school, my teaching credential program started talking about thematic units back then in the 1990s. And so it was making sure that we engage all of our students. Every student learns different. Every student performs at a different level, and it was just to create a lesson plan that would engage all of the students. Moving forward, I believe it was in 2005, I was doing my administrative credential. So I was still in the classroom, but I was doing my administrative credential, and that's the first time I learned about UDL. However, it was not called UDL back then. It was something else. And so there was a book that we were required to read in class, and it was just had to systematically include all of the students when we do lesson plans, had to remove barriers that we already knew. And so it triggered something on me. Even as a teacher, as I was reading that book and going to classes, I was changing my lesson planning, the way I was involving my students, the way I wanted to make sure I reach my students the first time I taught its subject, not that in interventions, not after school, not, if you can't come to lunch. It's like the first time that I introduced something, I wanted to make sure that they were able to learn it.
Okay.
And then from there, I got hooked on UDL. I did. And that was in 2005, around 2005. But then I remember in 2015, I was already principal at one of our middle schools. But every Child Succeed Act under President Obama was passed. But it literally had UDL as part of the sponsor activities for learning and engaging students. So to me, that allowed me as a principal to bring those ideas to the teachers. And I provide professional development on how to engage our students in a different way.
And Linwood Unified ran with it since?
Yes. So since then, we have been blessed with our superintendents. So I brought it to them, and at first they were like, well, we're not doing this district-wide yet, but go ahead, do it, because it's going to help the students. And so before Dr. Gatto, then Dr. Crosway, and now Dr. Giddes, they have been very welcoming of making sure that our students have equal access to the curriculum regardless of where the student is.
Okay.
So I'm very proud to be working here with amazing leaders.
Yeah, amazing leaders. We've been so fortunate.
We have.
So I know the words like universal design for learning. It could be a mouthful for parents and or even us as well. So how can we explain to our parents who are our main audience, how can we simplify like UDL in everyday language so that all parents can understand what that looks like?
As a parent, I do this with my kids. And how do we ask parents, how do we explain it to parents? Is making sure that we give our students, our children, the options for them to explain to us what they learn. So for example, when our children come to home and we don't ask them, what happened today at school? Most likely the answer will be nothing. But a lot of things happen. So give them options. Oh, tell me one thing that makes you happy. Tell me something that you learn inside the class. Oh, well, I learned that, 2 + 2 is 4. In high school, maybe I learned the Pythagorean theorem. And what is that? And ask them. Ask the children to explain it, because once the children have a passion, once the children get seen and heard, and they're learning, our children will tell us, and you will see the facial expression changing. When the students are learning something, they want to tell you about it.
They get excited.
They get excited. And it's like, oh, mama, oh, daddy, today we did this and we did that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. How did that make you feel? What is that? Explain it to me. Things like that. Even things at home that we do with our children, they can help us cook or clean or give them options, allow them to be creative. You know what? If you were doing, if you were the president of the United States, what would you do differently and why? If you were mommy or daddy, what would you do different, or what would you plan different and why? But it's just allowing the students to think, be creative, and give us an answer. So that is UDL in the classroom. UDL is allowing the students to be creative, to show us that they have learned in different ways. Not everyone can write a 5-essay paragraph in 20 minutes.
Right.
But they can tell you in different ways, in a drawing, in a presentation, in a conversation. They can perform it, but they can show us that they have learned in different ways.
Absolutely, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of how I would imagine UDL differs from traditional methods of teaching in a way. Because before it was like we're teaching one way to all students, like the visual learner.
Yeah. And that is correct, because usually we say, this is the lesson plan, this is what I want to teach, and then the students who don't get it, I do some interventions, and then if they still don't get it, I continue to move on and see when I can catch up with them. That's the traditional way. However, UDL, we come to the table knowing that I have different learners in the classroom. There could be English learners. There could be students with IEPs. There could be students who are just struggling. Not everyone understands the concept and understands everything right away. And I know that coming into the lesson plan, and I know that as a teacher coming into my classroom, that I have different learners. So I have the kinesthetic, the auditory learners, the visual learners. So I have the ones who will perform no matter what. And I have the quiet ones that will write great essays. But it is just coming to the classroom, allowing the students to show me that they have learned in a different ways. And so once the students know that they have another option other than a quiz or a test in paper and pencil, or even on a Chromebook, that they can do a project, that they can create a rap song, that they can do something different, that allows the students to be creative. And what child doesn't want to be creative?
Right.
Even high school students, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to perform, they want to make sure that we see them and we acknowledge them. So everyone wins.
How can we clear up the misconception that UDL is only for children with special needs when it really benefits all students?
And I briefly mentioned it, that it helps every student, English learners, struggling students. UDL is not a special ed program. UDL is not a special ed tool. UDL is a service, it's a mentality, it's a design that helps every student, even students who are in the advanced placement, even students who are in the gifted and talented program, it helps them as well because it will challenge them.
Right.
We do not water down the curriculum. We challenge every student at their own level and pace, and we allow them to be creative, to think differently, and demonstrate what they have learned.
I was listening to something in preparation for today, and my understanding is that the understanding of UDL actually derives from the world of architect, correct?
Yes.
And I've heard this fascinating thing, and I never thought about it, but this gentleman that was teaching on UDL, he was talking about how at some point in everybody's life, we all will experience a disability, whether that you're pregnant or you might just have a temporary, maybe inflammation of the body, you might have arthritis. And he gives the analogy of the door. Everybody you assume can open a door by turning the doorknob. And he was giving examples of different disabilities, such as somebody that might just have a bad bout with arthritis. They cannot even turn the doorknob. And so the example that he gave was that the most universal design for learning example out there is the automatic sliding glass door. And he was saying all humans can access an entrance when you have an automatic sliding glass door. And he was saying it's so brilliant that it doesn't just reach humans, it actually even allows animals to enter buildings, right? And that's the beauty of what UDL brings to education.
Absolutely, and that is the beauty, and that's the amazing concept of UDL, that it welcomes the students to learn and to show what they have learned at the students' level and the options that the students want to show that they have learned. And again, it could be in any format. It could be in different ways. We have different students. We have different students that perform different at every level. But when we empower the students, we bring in equity across the classroom for them to let us know what they have learned.
You said you were a parent, right?
Yeah.
So as a parent, like if my child is coming home from school, and that classroom that I'm sending my child to every day is a classroom rooted in like UDL, what would look different in that child, maybe even just with the everyday home life? If I'm the parent, what do I see in my child at home? Knowing like, okay, he's in a UDL classroom and the teacher supports the flexibility in that learning. What are the outcomes for those children?
So when I was in the classroom, I have a sign that say, "Welcome to Organized Chaos." Because my classroom was not quiet. I had different projects. Yes, I taught my lesson. I did my introduction. We worked together, but then I led the students into small groups to group themselves. So sometimes I had to group them to see which ones wanted to write the essay, which one was going to do the project, which was going to do a presentation. So I empowered my students to talk. And that's the beauty of it, because once the students are engaged in the subject, discussing the subject, explaining the subject to each other, and helping each other understand the subject, they take the power of explaining something as a peer. So it's less intimidating, and they learn it, and they want to show the teachers that they have learned in one way or another in a different modality. So when parents were asking me as a teacher, well, what does the homework looks like? Well, there's 3 or 4 options for your child to do homework.
Wow.
Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that, have your child choose one of the 3 or 4 formats to represent what they have learned. But it's not like a worksheet. No, not in my class. This is what we're talking about. This is the expectation. This is the rubric of how I'm going to grade the student. They have 2 or 3 different options to do it. And so parents were like, oh, that's different. But the students were like, oh, I already know what to do. I'm going to do this, and we're going to work together with this group. And they knew. They were so happy to come to my class and talk about things that they're learning. And again, it was organized chaos, because they knew exactly what they wanted to do. And so my classroom was loud, because as a high school teacher, you have 30, 35 students in one class talking, it can get loud. But whenever someone will ask my students, what are you doing right now? Oh, they were able to tell them, this is what we're doing, this is the goal, this is the expectation, and we're working on this project, or we're doing this presentation, or we're doing the essay component, or something.
So it sounds like your love for learning translates itself into the classroom to where you provide opportunity that motivated the students. Then they become confident based upon that motivation, and then they become like the masters of what they're learning, right? And it all started with that flexibility. Sounds like you call it organized chaos, but it also sounds like you had not just flexibility, but you provided capacity. Like you have an enlarged capacity as a teacher. How can we get more teachers to enlarge their capacity to bring the excitement and enthusiasm in students to learn?
We're providing. We last year we started providing some professional development on UDL. We are expanding this year and years to come. But every teacher has that in them. I mean, we became teachers because we have a passion to share a knowledge, and we want our students to learn it. And so we might have to tweak one or two things with individuals, but everybody wants to have their children, their students learn. And so through the professional developments, through conversations with them, we will reignite that goal of having our students be involved in creating and producing and ensuring that they let us know what they have learned from what we teach them. Because even as a teacher, we bring the knowledge to them, but they need to absorb that knowledge and represent it in different modalities that they have understood and they have learned the subject.
So what do you think classrooms of the future would look like once like UDL is successfully rolled out across the board, not just here as our district, but like, schools across the nation? Like, once it's really like the main modality of learning.
Well, funny that you mentioned that, because UDL is now part of the teaching credential requirements. So teachers who are getting their credentials need to take classes on UDL and lesson plans on UDL. So that will be happening soon.
Oh, good.
And so what I envision is having students be completely engaged, not in one class, not just with one teacher, but every day with multiple teachers in secondary, no matter where they are, building that self-esteem on their students to say, oh, I have the option to explain to my teacher that I have learned in this way or that way. And taking the risk. If I'm someone that loves to write, then I have that option, but at the same time, over time, I might have that self-esteem and that confidence that maybe this time I don't want to write the essay. Maybe this time I want to do a presentation or a project-based learning where I'm going to be working with my teammates to show the teacher that we created this model that represents cell division for biology, for example. And it's just that. Is giving the students the empowerment of representing something on their own pace and building their self-esteem, building their confidence.
Yeah, and confidence is huge when it comes to learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the students feel safe and knowing that they can take risks in the classroom, no one making fun, even their peers, they can take that risk and they can say, hey, what about that? Or what about this? And everyone is on a different page. Every comment is welcome.
Yeah. Is there something that parents and schools can do to partner together to make UDL successful, whether that's at the district, in classrooms, in home, or throughout the community?
I would ask parents just to keep pushing their students and question their students, their children, as to explain that to me again. Ask the students, how would you like to learn? Well, if the teacher is not teaching you that way, are you comfortable asking the teacher to explain it to you in a different way? Do you want me to ask the teacher to explain it in a different way? It is the fact that children are very comfortable with their parents. Children, tell parents everything. And so when the child goes, I'm not sure if I'm learning that, the parents can say, what way would you like to learn that? How else would you like? The students may not verbally be able to express, but they know they don't like how something is being taught to them. So the fact that they say, I'm still struggling with this, is the opportunity for the for the parent to reach out to the teacher and say, look, my child is struggling with this. Can you explain it in a different way? Can they show you what they have learned in a different way other than a paper quiz?
Right. I think you bring up such a valid point, because even though, like, let's say there's UDL happening in the classroom, maybe that student is going home, and if the parent might not even be implementing UDL in the home as well to some degree, and the student can't verbally express themselves, then that could be a barrier in the home. So I think it's so important that parents also bring in that flexibility of different learning styles in the home, right?
Correct.
That's powerful.
And as a parent, I always say that I know what I have at home. I have two sons, and both of my sons, they act different. Everyone is different, in every home.
Right.
And I say that because what works with one son doesn't work with the other one, and vice versa.
It'd be easier if it worked with both, right?
Exactly. And I'm just like, okay, I want to provide my son, my youngest son, this, and my older son, I had to provide something different. They understand differently. They live at the same household. They have the same parents. They eat the same food, but it's just two different human beings.
Right.
So knowing that and knowing what works with each of my child benefits me as a parent to communicate with the teacher. How about you work this way with my son? How about you work this other way with my other son?
So as a parents, we're appreciating their unique individuality, and then we're advocating for our child by communicating with the teachers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes such a big difference, knowing our children. Because with the struggling parents, some of us could be just so overwhelmed with life that we might not necessarily always be in tune with some of our children's talents and giftedness, and or even their modes of learning. And so in that moment, we could really do a disservice to our children and their learning. And that's part of UDL, is removing the barriers. Correct. Right?
And it's that barrier. And don't get me wrong, I understand as a working parent, I work long hours. You know, all of our parents work long hours. And when I have that conversation with my children, it may be 7 p.m., 7:30, but I still engage, make a point to engage with each of my children, and to see and check on them. And again, I do reach out to their teachers as needed, and not only like, can you do this? It's like, help me understand something so I can work with my son at home. Right. It's that partnership that not everyone has the answers all the time, but it benefits our children. So what are you doing differently that I need to replicate at home for them to understand?
So UDL, we're about to conclude this podcast today, but with every episode we do a take-home challenge. Okay. And the take-home challenge for you today is for our families and our parents. So UDL is about what you just highlighted. It's about access, it's about options, and use the keyword right now, engagement. Engaging with our children. So what is one thing, small little thing that a parent can do this week that supports their child with their learning by creating opportunities for engagement and or even inclusivity within the home? Like, what is just one small thing that a parent can do this week to encourage their child and support their child's learning?
It depends on the grade level. But engage and have that conversation, because the conversation will be different. If you have a child in elementary school that likes to help you cook, in the kitchen, well, that looks different, because it's like, okay, let's cook this. We're making this for dinner. What would you think will happen if I add these other ingredients or don't add that? How would it taste different? But is that being creative for that child? It will look different if my son loves sports. And so it's like, okay, so you're in soccer, you're practicing, you listen to the coach. How will you feel if you do a different trick with the ball and passing it different? And so it's just having the conversation of where our children are, what they enjoy doing, and make a quick comment for them to think as to how will something look different for them. And it is just that allow them to be creative in what they enjoy doing. So our parents can just allow their children to be more creative, explain things to them in their own way, not in how we see it, but in how our students, our children see things to us.
I love it. It's allowing them and giving them the permission to be themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And us respecting that process, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Marquez, for your time and all of your information today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Well, thank you, Linwood Unified School District families, for joining us today. I know you received some helpful information with our guest speaker, Dr. Marquez. Please join us for our next episode of Beyond the Classroom podcast, and we will look forward to seeing more of you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the Student Services Department. We are here to service you. Thank you, and have a great day.